Hello, everyone. Thanks again for making it out for our guest speaker series. As you know, we've had a number of guests giving back in different ways to the program and sharing stories, advice, tips, tricks, and everything that goes with it. As part of this series, we do want to continue to acknowledge that the CDM is located on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam nations. Super appreciative of everything that we've been doing, all the ways that we're connecting. And for tonight's main event on the speaker series side, we've been honored by having guests connecting with us via one of the current. Tom had made the introduction, but yeah, Tom is obviously in the family already with the knowledge of Dr. Dude and our director, Larry Baff. Yeah, I want to hear those stories later on as well. But with that, just to recap for those on the call, we've got Colin Beadle, Beadle, there we go, thank you, who's the VP of Human Resources at Atomic Cartoon, so he'll know all the inner workings, needs, desires, and secrets of Atomic, which is great. And we've got Steve Grover, who's a supervising producer from Atomic, joining us as well. They both got very impressive careers, having worked for multiple studios. We were just touching on how you can move around in different industries or different studios for that matter in your career. So your advice is super appreciated. Welcome, thank you so much. And back to you, Colin, to kick things off in whatever way.
It's so awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having us. We'll probably have Steve and then myself talk a little bit about just our career paths, and hopefully there's something that everybody can learn from the journeys that we've been on. And then most importantly, we want to do a Q&A with everybody. So hopefully, definitely, I mean, everybody says this, but it definitely, there's no dumb questions. We want to hear anything and everything. Ask us anything at all about the studio, about the industry, whatever you like, and happy to answer. So
that's great. And we will have, I'll monitor sort of the feel free to type things in chat if people don't want to jump in midstream like I just did on you, but I'll try to give you guys breathers so you can have a drink of water or something like that along the way too.
I started, it was back in 2008, and I actually, I started with Rainmaker after going through school at BCIT at the FilmFlex program that is no longer there. They've transformed it into a different program over at BCIT. And I was an intern and jumped in very quickly trying to find, my passion, which has always been animation. I've always had a love for animation and film all the way through. Out of that, I actually got a good contact and was hired at Pixar Canada, where I worked for 4 years from opening to close. There was obviously some business decisions that were made, and I progressed from there into visual effects, where I worked at Method Studios, where I worked on, I think 6 different shows, progressed my way through Method, and worked over at Sony ImageWorks, where I worked on Hotel Transylvania 2, feature animation. And then from there, I worked over at Double Negative, where I started to produce. And that's where I worked on Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Star Trek Beyond, Wonder Woman actually was one of the big tent poles that I worked on there. And after that, after that is when Atomic came calling. And I've been at Atomic since mid-2017. And now currently, when I was at Atomic, when I first jumped in there, we were at around 200 people. And now we're at almost 800 right now. So we've progressed in less than 4 years. We've almost quadrupled our output, and we've added studios in LA. We've added studios in Ottawa. So we're really starting to develop the business and where we can go from there. Colin, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into a little bit more about my role and what it's about, and then a little bit more about your role?
Sounds awesome. So, I went to Langara for school for fine arts, and after that, I went to the Vancouver Film School. I was class 9 there, so it was sort of the early days of 3D, and I came out with a very, very, very mediocre demo reel. And through a lot of persistence and begging, got my first job as a runner, not even an artist, but a runner at Mainframe back in the day. Oh man, that's incredible. I can't believe Dr. Dude's here. This is so awesome. And yeah, and that first job was, I mean, that was my foot in the door. I was fetching coffee and driving executives, kids around town, and picking up videotapes, because you used to do that, and delivering them around the city. And eventually convinced them to let me be an animator, which I did for a number of years there, and it was an amazing experience. But the fun thing there was having been a runner and had the opportunity to work in multiple departments, and helping sort of everyone in the building, versus animating, where you're very focused sort of on your craft. I really missed that. And so I actually I made a change in my career and moved into production, and kept going that route. And actually it's funny because, I think it's definitely where I found my calling. I think as an artist, I was okay. I enjoyed it. And I got to meet an amazing number of people, but it was really in production that I found all the opportunities that I've been looking for, and got to really sort of explore my passion for animation. And it opened a ton of doors at other studios and video games and in TV as well. And it gave me an opportunity to work in the US for a little while, which was incredible. And then come back. And so, going through all those different production roles, it's amazing how many things you pick up that apply to where I am right now in human resources. I've been lucky to make a couple of sort of big pivots in my career in the industry, which I think says a lot to just sort of the industry that we're in. And then it gives you those opportunities to be able to do that. If you start in one role, you don't necessarily have to stay there. And yeah, right now, like Grover said, I mean, I joined the studio at Atomic when we were 150 people. We're 800 plus now, 3 studios, and still growing. We're 5 years ago, the industry was on fire and everybody wanted content for streaming services, and we were all sort of like, holy smokes, this is an amazing time to be in the industry. Even stranger still, now with the pandemic, Grover and I are finding ourselves in a spot where there's even more demand right now, as live action work suffered because you couldn't, sort of gather to focus on sets. You still could continue on and work from home in animation. And so we've been a target for a lot of shows, even live action type shows that have looked at the idea of turning their shows into animated series instead, or doing sort of one-offs to keep them going. So it's a wild time. I don't think anybody could have predicted this. None of us are taking this for granted. We've seen definitely lots of ups and downs in the industry, and I certainly have over the past 20 years. But for the past 10 years, at least, there's just been, constant growth, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of that stopping. Grover, I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to add to that. Yeah,
absolutely. I want to apologize that my video was off. First and foremost, I was explaining who I was.
I didn't want to say anything, man. Yeah.
Everyone gets shy.
I you're just shy. Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
shy.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Just mirroring what Colin said there, the growth aspect of the industry, we are definitely in a difficult time. We are in a lucky industry in the sense that everybody is looking for content, and the growth is going to continue to happen with the streaming services. Everybody wants to go back to a movie theater, but we're looking at ways to kind of utilize what we have and what we can do. And, the next couple of years is definitely going to be the golden age of content creation. And I don't think it's going to slow down a whole lot after that as well. Once people see the access to more and more and more, and it's going to continue to be there, and we're always going to be looking for great people to come join the team. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a ride. And I'll tell you a little bit about my position right now. So what is a supervising producer? What does that mean? My job is basically I manage a group of producers. So there's a line producer usually for each show that is in charge of the budget, the hiring, making sure that the schedule and budget demands are met with the client, making sure that everything kind of fits into place. There's enough seats, enough computers, enough software, whatever is needed for each of the artists. And throwing that into the pandemic times, it's also making sure that each of the artists can get that at home when they need it. So my job as a supervising producer is to help develop those relationships with the clients. Some of the business development is setting the budgets into place, creating the budgets, working with the clients to make sure that we can create, what they're looking for in the time that they want it, completed. We have to look at discussing the overall capacity of the studio, which is also very difficult when you look at, going from 200 to 800 artists, and how does that fit in? How does one team, one show roll into the next show? When animation is finished, when design is finished on a show, when layout, when lighting and comp is finished in the animation pipeline. We're always trying to find a way to keep our teams as much as we can, because we really want to commit to the people that come work with us. And we really want to make sure that we're finding every single person a continued job for as long as we possibly can. So my position is overseeing all of the productions, and currently, I'm bidding on about 16 different shows, while I'm also overseeing 5 different shows that are going on right now, plus another couple that are about to start in the next few months. And some people might say that's a lot. Well, how do you keep it all together? Well, you work well with the teams that you have. You have open communication. You make sure that you're setting the teams up to succeed. You're letting people know what the expectations are. You're super clear about what the clients are looking for. And a lot of it does come down to problem solving, is making sure that, as challenges arise, it's not about looking backwards. We're always about looking forwards and bringing a solution to the table. And, there's so many different ways that clients and our internal artists and animators want to work, that sometimes you don't always hit what the clients are looking for. So it's always trying to find a way to problem solve and come together with the teams. So a lot of what I do is make sure that the artists are feeling supported while they're working and creating the art that we're either getting paid to by other clients, or we're paying ourselves with our own IP, our own intellectual property. So it's a lot of talks. It's a lot of Zoom meetings right now, which is hilarious that I just missed being the face of the first one of this one. So I apologize. Colin, do you have anything else on that one? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, can you guys hear me now? Yeah, there we go.
Zoom bingo card right there.
This is amazing. Yeah, we're doing everything wrong. Yeah, no, I really did think you were just on mute though, or on trying to be shy there, Grover. Sorry. But yeah, no, my role, just like Grover's, is a big support role for the studio. The number one thing that we focus on is talent and talent management and recruiting. And, as a result, I get to do awesome stuff like this with Grover and meet people like yourselves, and hopefully try and convince you to join us in the future. Because there's, again, a never ending amount of work. Our team right now in human resources and recruiting, we work very closely together. We've done that purposely, and we've kept the team small purposely, so that, we're not sort of a big automated force that, when you send in your demo reel, some sort of robotic answer comes back to you. Sometimes it takes us a while to get back to people, but you can get a human response, and hopefully, even some feedback on what you put forward. The interview process at Atomic is extremely casual. If we make the decision to bring you into the studio, or meet with you virtually right now, we've already made a call that the work that you've displayed is great, and that's why we want to speak to you. Really that sort of casualness is to try and figure out sort of like, hey, do you want to work with us? Are we a place that's interesting to you? And vice versa. So, the more down to earth we can make that process, the better, because, asking people questions about their greatest weakness and all that kind of stuff, you just can get all kinds of strange responses there, and you don't end up meeting the person and finding out what they're actually all about. yeah, so I mean, honestly, the biggest part of my job right now, especially in going into 2021 with all the projects that we've got on the horizon, is reaching out to people like yourselves. We're so excited to meet you, and I'm not sure when this class is graduating, but we'll be watching very carefully for that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that. Much like your backgrounds, you actually have two of our alum working with you right now. I mean, I think there's been a few others through the doors, but Andrea Mayo, she was over at Bardell at one point. She's now on working with you guys. And Dan Fleming, who was actually, he'd spent some time at Mainframe, or I guess, as well. So, it's you started collecting the MDM. And speaking of, I think when I was promoting this talk, I'd shared sort of a link to the careers page, and it was like, there's a lot of roles that are listed there. And I'm guessing Tom probably gave you the background about, but I'm going to recap it for you on this call anyway. So like the MDM program, it was built by industry for industry, but it's a real mixed bag. We're a one-stop shop for talent. We have like the technical students, front end, back end, CS engineers. We've got the artist designer types, whether it's, filmmakers, animators, modelers, other artists and designers for doing UI, UX, and otherwise. And we have the producer project manager types, right? So it's kind of, we tick a lot of boxes there. And then we have, there's the niche specialists that either go deep into a specific software. They might know something about sound engineering, but, what all are you looking for? What, again, like, so to, we're trying to emulate a studio and everything we're doing, but, what kind of roles are you looking to fill? Like what departments are typically?
So many, and everything you just said is ticking boxes for us. So that's actually amazing. Grover and I were talking just before we joined you guys, and we're kind of curious sort of what everybody does and or what their specialty is and what they're looking to make a move into. So that's awesome to know that. This is a real diverse group. That's terrific.
Yeah.
And I got something else to add to that. So this diverse group, they are all employable because they all have a valid work visa, both when they head into their internship term and when they graduate, they get the post-grad work visa. So I know
that is incredible.
Had a challenge with some international students getting the post-grad work visas, but we are set up to, we can hook you up.
Dennis, that is awesome. Also, side note, we do have an immigration specialist that we work closely with too, if people need assistance there. So, but hey, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I just posted a link to the students so you can see some snapshots of the faces you're not seeing behind the name boxes, but you can get a sense of who they're at. But they're super talented. One more hype man job for our students.
Yeah.
So this program, because it's kind of elite status here, they get a degree not from one institution, but 4. They graduate from UBC, SFU, BCIT, and Emily Carr all at once. The bar is quite high. Dr. Dude doesn't let anybody into this program. So the group that you're going to see, they ran a gauntlet to even make this list. If they make it out, you've got some solid talent coming your way. That's it. I'll let you get back to your talk here, but I just wanted to hype our crew here a little bit. So.
That's awesome, Dennis. Huge credit to you too, or shout out to you. You're amazing with Zoom. Grover and I failed here bad.
I'm not winning at the Zoom game either. I was messing up all kinds of things earlier.
You kidding? You were like posting links and talking. I'm amazed. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to jump in here too. So I went to Sheridan College back in the day. I thought I was going the animation route and all that. I ended up going the production side too, and fell into doing like career services and managing different things. So it's kind of like, I like that story again, that, you can take your craft and look at the pivots even within the sector you want to work in, right? So, we drew Dave back into academia, I guess. So he's got the doctor. So he's Dr. Dude came back.
You got the best. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing but the best. Super
quick before we move on. I just got to say, hey, I did work briefly with Dave when I was at Mainframe back in the day. And he's one of those special people, just like our CEO, where even when I was a coffee fetcher, he treated me so nicely. And, it's the same person, regardless of what you're doing in the building, and just to give it a shout out.
I'm gonna blush now, man.
Well, and to speak on top of that as well, as what Colin said, we have such an incredible open door policy. Colin was talking about our CEO, Jen Twiner-McCarron. She leads by example, and she is probably the most caring person I've ever met, especially in a role where she's at, where she's has to be on top of her game, with some of these business sharks across the world, and I've learned so much from her in empathy and how to treat everyone around you as as a person, as a teammate, as someone you just want to continue to be around. And that's what we do at Atomic, is really push that, is like, this is a team. There's not just one person, there's not just two people. We all do this together. We all create as good of art as we can, and we all stand behind it, and we're all really proud of the work that we do. And it is because we stand with the people who we work with. It is not a one person show at all. So I have to point that one out for sure.
Two anecdotes around that. So, I mean, we always say, hey, reach out to us about anything. And we truly mean that. And, but it's funny because some people really take us up on it. And we've had people message Jen, our CEO, and say, hey, the building's too hot. Can you adjust the thermostat? And she'll come tearing out of her office and immediately adjust the thermostat for everybody, and I mean, that's the kind of person she is. Also, as things started to go sideways globally with the pandemic, we had to get everybody home and safe and able to work. And, Jen and everyone in the building got their cars. Grover and I did, we grabbed lists of everybody in the building, loaded up our cars with hardware, and just drove it all over the city to get everybody functioning from home. And it was a big sort of Herculean effort, but it's an awesome environment to be in a place where everyone's doing, has the same sort of values together and cares.
I kind of have a question about that. You guys are both kind of touching on it right now anyways, but you've both worked for some big companies, Disney, Pixar, Sony. What is it that attracts you to, I don't want to say small because Atomic's just growing huge right now, but more of a boutique studio or a Canadian studio? What is it about that attracted you both there?
Grover, do you want to go first? Yeah,
I'll jump on this one real quick. I think what really drew me to Atomic, first of all, was one of my coworkers, who's our head of production, Joel Bradley. He had reached out with Jen and said, listen, we'd love to see you come over to the studio and really kind of bring in some of the experience from the other bigger studios and see how we can create something a little different. We have this culture that is an artist-driven studio, started by 4 artists who are designers and storyboard artists 22 years ago, and 3 of them are still with us. One, Trevor, is actually our executive VP of the company, and so of business development. But the original reason that the company started was to give artists a home where they felt like they were part of something bigger and not just a number, not just a machine, not just a dollar sign of how much can we pump through this, and that really has bled through everybody. We really do kind of go by the same values from 22 years ago. It's about feeling small, even as we continue to grow, but treating everyone like they're our family, and that really is what Atomic's about. It's, when you talk about boutique, it's more family than anything else. Even as big as we've gotten, it's still family.
Yeah, totally. And on that, absolutely, it's the people. Of all the places I've worked, the reason I've stuck around here as long as I have is because I get to work with awesome people like Grover and so many people on the leadership team, all the artists. Everyone's got the same sort of values, and that's, believe it or not an easy thing to find. I've been in a lot of places where it's sort of a big mixed bag of what people's directions are, and again, going back to Jen, she does lead by example, and we follow her, and she's surrounded herself with people that are like-minded, and I think Grover and I are sort of similar beings in that way. Which helps a lot. It means that you as an artist, if you reach out to anybody on the leadership team, chances are, you might get a slightly different answer, but it's going to be the same, sort of principles and ideas behind it. There's not going to be that much variation. And it's always coming sort of from a kind and compassionate place. And then the other thing is, having worked at larger places, just like Grover, hey, there's no knocking that. There's awesome opportunities and experiences that you can have anywhere and everywhere. But one of the things I like about Atomic, even though we are quite large, is that you can make decisions quickly. We're not a studio where there's sort of 20 levels of overhead to get someone a pencil or something. You can make it a decision very fast, and everyone's empowered and trusted to sort of make those calls on their own and get things done. And even if you do make the wrong decision, no one gets punished for that. There's no blame game. There's nothing. It's just very collaborative and supportive.
Absolutely. The empowerment is such a strong word in that sense. It's we really want to have everybody feel like they can make a decision without fear of reprisal of any point. That empowerment's a great word.
Should we open this up to
Yeah.
I mean, these are already a couple of awesome questions, but should we open it up to everybody else? If anybody else wants to put something in chat, or if you want to speak, you can do that too. Whatever if you're good at Zoom. We're not, but
Yeah, I have a question. So first off, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight. I've been really looking forward to this. And my name is Ada, and I'm really interested in joining your studio because you guys are really famous for having an artist oriented culture out there. What is your advice when it comes to new artists who are trying to break into the industry?
Ooh, yeah. Grover, do you want to start?
Sure. The first thing that I'd be looking for, is passion about what it is that you want to do. There's so many different things, so many different departments, so many different positions, from a designer, storyboard artist, animator, and again, depending on what you're looking to do, you can jump in at Atomic laterally as well. It's you might go in and say, hey, I wanted to be a designer, and you jump in and you realize, animation, lighting looks really cool. Comp, I love that. We are very open opportunity for laterally going between that. So when I'm looking for someone to join the studio, I look for, first of all, someone who's passionate about what they want to do. They show a really good understanding. And I get it, it's junior understanding coming out of school. We're not expecting perfection out of everyone, but we're looking for people who really want to go after it and have a passion to go after what they love to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. Ada, what sort of specific area are you looking to focus on right now?
Yeah, so I'm actually really interested in applying to one of your designer and background layout positions down the line.
Awesome.
But I don't graduate until September. I'm just wondering, how can I get more involved with your studio during the meantime? Are you guys taking any interns? Again, this is one of my top studios that I'm looking at. So
that's so awesome to hear that.
Involved if possible.
That's so awesome. Okay, well, first of all, I wish Mark Hansen was here. He's our head of recruiting, and he's so good with specifics. But I know if he was here, the first thing he'd say is that you should make sure you're on LinkedIn, because every studio recruits via LinkedIn. And sort of it's not really a pro tip. I think everybody knows this, but maybe a bit of a secret. Add every recruiter you possibly can find on there. You're not, bothering anyone at all. You're actually helping them. So, and aim high, aim for whatever you want to do. The worst thing that's going to happen is someone accepts your invite and doesn't get a chance to speak to you immediately. But, the best thing that can happen is, kind of the sky's the limit. There's an opportunity to interact directly with studio recruiters and management. Someone like you reached out, the first thing we do is probably get you in for a tour of some sort, and hopefully connect you directly with someone in backgrounds that you can get some sort of real feedback on what would be the expectation and the opportunity to look at work that's used in shows. But now that we're all at home right now, obviously this is tough, but that's still something we can do. It's just that it would end up being via Zoom or whatever else. But I mean, honestly, LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, and I'm saying that for everyone too, not just Ada. Please, if you when we finish up here tonight, please add Grover and I. We love to connect with everybody.
Awesome. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I actually think I've been following him for a while on LinkedIn, but I haven't like added him yet. So like I think I might go and do that after.
Is it following Mark or Grover?
Mark, yeah.
Mark. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh yeah, add Mark. Are you kidding? That's awesome. Yeah, and add me and add Grover too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you guys a message.
And if there's anything we
Sure.
don't answer tonight, don't, like, just message us after, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Ada. Yeah.
I am going to sort of add on to that. So the students in the program, they join us in September. They run the gauntlet through September, December, January, through April, May, through August, and then they're free. September is when they actually become available full-time. Academically, it's called their internship term, but for us, it's the last step of the program, which means essentially employers can hire them on, for a contract and keep them on as full-time employees, or they can start as full-time employees. Dr. Dude is actually managing the internship program, so you're going to be hearing from that guy as to who you should be connecting with. But thinking of what the students could be doing between now and that period of time, we are going to have a showcase, which is like a portfolio show. We don't call it that way because we're not as portfolio centric. However, we do know that studios are still looking at portfolios. So again, as a background artist, should she be looking at sort of your art style, tailoring some pieces that might be appealing on
Yeah,
the
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like, if you reach out to us after, we can probably connect you with someone that can show you some show specific things so you can get an idea of sort of the level of what it would take. I'd also suggest on that, knowing, since you guys know exactly when you're going to be graduating and coming out looking for work, put in your heading, say graduating September 2021 or whatever, just so everybody knows, because, Grover and I look at budgets and schedules that show, we're going to be staffing for this thing in February or a year from now, or it's kind of all over the place. So sometimes we look at stuff, and just because you're not available at this exact moment doesn't mean that we're not still interested in trying to bring you on board.
Awesome. That's really great to know.
So that's a background artist, but I'm thinking, a common question we get is like, what about those that go the production route? What are you looking for from your, not to say production the runner, but production coordinator? Like
that's Grover's territory.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. What do you want to see?
I love that question. I come from a restaurant background prior to getting into the film industry, animation industry. Primarily, what I look for in a first interview is how people present themselves, and again, as Colin said earlier, it's very much we're laid back, trying to figure out how the fit could go, and it really does come down to I'm looking for anyone who is thinking about the future, thinking about asking the questions about what it is they don't know, and being okay with themselves to say, hey, I don't know that. Let me figure out how to get there. It's really about thinking outside of what your now is. So kind of reaching for the future, and that really can be a 10-minute conversation for a first introduction, to kind of get into a little bit more, to show you what the animation pipeline would be. But when it comes down to production staff, I really look forward to people who are problem solvers, critical thinkers, and really ask questions. Because if you're not asking questions, in my mind, when I'm looking at it, you're not necessarily sure what you want to do. But if you're looking for the questions, that's when you'll get your own answers. And I love that part of it.
It's so unique too that this class has some people that want to go the production route.
Exactly.
Grover and I are always used to meeting animators and designers and board artists and comp and effects artists, etc. And it's there's always like sort of you're lucky if there's one person in a class that says I want to be in production. So that's awesome. If there's a few,
We have it all. We got the technical artist. We've got it's a one-stop shop.
Your own studio, yeah. You can you should make your own project. That's great.
Yeah, I saw Dave jumping in here. I'm gonna let.
Sorry, Dave. Yeah.
Add to that, but some of our C4 teams were really lucky. They reached out to Jen, and Jen spent, I think, an hour talking to a couple of them because they wanted to be producers. So we do have a good number of people that are project managers or want to become producers. And she gave some great tips, and I kind of wanted to ask you about them as well. And also
Awesome.
The book she referenced, and I think I've forgotten. I don't know if it was, I'm not sure if it was Catherine's
Oh,
book.
probably Producing Animation by Catherine Winter. Yeah, that Grover's grabbing it.
Yeah. And she also did mention, she said, for anyone coming out of our program that's been a
somewhere.
manager or a producer, but not in the domain of animation, might have to think about starting a little lower because that domain knowledge is really important.
It's true.
After that?
It is true. Yeah, sorry, Colin?
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, it's I kind of equate it to when I was an animator and then decided to make a move to production. People always ask me sort of like, oh, what's the sort of one-to-one move there? Did you go from being a mid-level animator to a production manager? No, there's not. I took a step back and there was a pay cut involved in that too, but it was a step back to take several steps forward and over the long term. So, it is the same thing. We welcome in open arms people that are coming from other industries that have managerial skills already. We some of our best people have come from outside the industry, but it doesn't necessarily mean if you were a producer at a particular company that now getting into entertainment and animation that it's one-to-one. Yeah.
And to top on that one as well, in fact, our sister company, Great Pacific Media, we actually had a producer for live action, basically, who's come over as a coordinator just this past week, just to help get into the animation industry. And again, having to understand what the pipeline is different between live action and animation. So really getting into each department separately is a really good understanding. And then we actually find that those are the people that jump up much quicker as well, because they have a firm understanding of what the management structure should be, but they just don't have every single tool in their belt yet to move forward. And I was looking for Catherine Winters.
Did you find it?
Hey, didn't we do a project with Catherine?
We did with Wind, Sun, Sky.
Wind, Sun, Sky. Yeah, we did.
A bit of a plug for Catherine in that book. I mean, it's become an industry standard, and all of us, Grover's trying to find his. All of us have a copy of that somewhere. The great thing about that book is it, especially for all of you, if you're looking to get into production or even not, even just sort of wondering what's happening inside a studio, it gives you a really good sort of breakdown of each different department within an animation studio, and it gives it to you in a way that won't put you to sleep like some textbooks do. So yeah, definitely.
Well, that's awesome. Actually, on a number of these calls, we've had some good book referrals in that, and I think I saw Kristen Pilling on the call too at one point. She sometimes picks up books for our IRC, our library, resource library. So
that's a good one to have. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah. What's so in this COVID world, what do you see happening afterwards? Are people coming back to the office? Are you still working from home? And what would be the commute like from
this is starting to feel like our morning meeting now, Grover. We have regular conversations about this, trying to predict the future, and I think we've got an idea of where we're going to go, though. Grover, do you want to start off there?
For sure. And I will say every studio is going to be different across the board. I know some studios are already planning to come back as soon as they can, full stream. We are not doing that. We are going to be building a kind of crossover of work from home, work in studio, maybe some hot desking, some hoteling, something like that, where, there's a group of people that share a desk through the week, depending on when they can get in or whatnot, depending on their commute, depending on their home life. We're very much trying to be that flexible group as well, to say, hey, we get it. This is a terrible time right now, but how can we make it better for everyone in the future when this is over? Depending on however long it does take, we are definitely looking to make it better for everyone in the future.
This is kind of an awesome segue to talk about our employee surveys too. So every couple of months we do an employee survey at the studio and just ask everybody the same questions almost every time, but how they're doing and what they think of all the different sort of aspects of the studio. And then we take that information and Grover and I and a number of other people deliver it back to everyone in like a presentation. And sometimes, it's not always amazing, the feedback. Sometimes it's pretty intense, but the great thing is everybody gets heard, and and we really do, read every single comment and concern that comes in, good and bad. And one of them right now is this, what's the future going to look like for people, and where are they going to be, at home or in the studio? And the majority of our people do want a hybrid, like Grover's talking about, and so that's our goal when when vaccines are more readily available and it's safe to return. That's the plan going forward.
So
Good
piggybacking
questions.
on, like, speaking of predicting the future, where do you think the Canadian animation industry is heading? Like, I know that Canada gets a lot of outsourced work from the States. Do you think you guys will start making more original content? Do you see like a demand or growth?
Great question. Yeah.
That is an incredible question.
Yeah.
The goal for Atomic Cartoons is to continue on our service model, but also put into practice, we want to get up to 50-50. So 50% IP work and 50% service. The reason being is that, it can take a long time to create your full series or your feature or whatever it is as your own IP. And while you're doing that, you want to continue to protect your business interests, which in this case are actually our people, our artists. We want to make sure that we don't have these giant roller coasters of ups and downs. So yeah, we definitely see the model continuing to grow and continuing to have more Canadian homegrown material. But we also are in an interesting place right now as well, because we have offices in Ottawa and in LA. So we have a mix from the east and from the south, being able to help kind of bit of a cyclone there that really kind of heats it all up, which is great.
Grover, and you produce one of the studio's own IP. I didn't want to steal your thunder there with Hello Ninja.
Yeah, it was one of our first, actually. We've done a couple in the past, but it was our first CG. After, I shouldn't say first. We also co-produced Beat Bugs as well, which, if I'm correct, Colin, you helped produce that one.
I did. I was like one of the last things I think I was on before moving into human resources. Yeah. Awesome. Does anybody have any other? Yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, Dennis.
Sure.
I'm cutting you off.
I was going to say, it's more of a curiosity too. So, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for original IP being created in Canada. That's awesome. And striving for that balance between the service work, which again, Vancouver has so many studios that are, leaning into the service side. With the original IP, do you do anything beyond the broadcast media? Like, you get into interactive? Is there anything with licensing the IP, doing internal development on game or web content, or are there interactive roles within Atomic for developing things around the IP? What happens with the IP?
Yeah, so Last Kids on Earth is actually a very good example of our own IP that we're I think a game is when is it coming out, Colin? Is it March,
soon? I think it's really soon, this spring. Yeah.
So in the same vein, we were in contact and we optioned the rights from the writer Max Brallier, who's got a New York Times bestseller, Last Kids on Earth, which is kind of a futuristic zombie apocalypse for teenagers. And we are actually looking at marketing that, adding to the business development outside of just the games. How can we add more interactive?
With that in mind, so is just to double down on this, are you doing the internal interactive development, or are you outsourcing that to another studio to work on? Do you have roles for the interactive?
Well, I think on the art side, I think there's some overlap there. On the tech side, no. I think it would be a big challenge to pivot from TV animation to video games internally.
Yeah.
There's so much development.
Well, I
work
remember
that
Nerdcore
happens.
was doing something with Slugterra back in the day, or whatever the guys.
That's right. Yeah. And I think I'm not sure what's happened there now, but I know they've branched off their games team. I think is their own unit now. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did the reboot of Reboot actually. In the early days, we had to do it in stealth mode, but we actually worked on.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we should talk projects one day, because we worked with Catherine on Wind Sun Sky. We worked on with Mainframe on doing the reboot of Reboot, and
oh, that's so awesome. And so did this group work with those studios then on those? That's so cool. That's great.
So again, so what's baked into our program, again, additional hype or sales pitch here, but the students, they're actually, through the process of this program, they work on applied R&D, prototyping, proof of concepts with studios behind them.
Wow.
So a lot of the work that they take on building out portfolios is relevant to a real world need, desire.
Oh, that's
I'll
incredible.
Details as a follow-up to this, because it's kind of an
Thank you for that. Yeah.
No worries.
Dennis, that'd be great. Now I'm even more excited when everybody's graduating. Yeah, this is great.
We did 3 projects directly with Michael Heffron. He was actually the person directly dealing with the student teams.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And directly with Catherine and 2 other people working with her too. So,
and so was it this class, or was it past classes then?
It was
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
220 some odd projects now, 240. Anyway, again, math is not my thing right now, but we've done a lot. Like we do
it's definitely
so
not
many
mine
projects. We like to mix it up too. So it might be Atomic's turn soon.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. We'd love to hear about that. That's awesome. Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I think Dave asked a question that I was also going to ask about if you guys have moved over to game engines, but also follow up VR, AR. Are you planning to use that for storytelling?
Cool.
So interesting discussion. Unity and Unreal are very much at the forefront of our future development thoughts. We don't have anything currently in play right now, but we are, discussing how that could work in different partners that could actually work with us into the future on that. Can't really talk much about who that would be with at this point, but there definitely are the discussions already happening. When that goes into play, could still be a year, could be 2 years down the road, depending on how quickly we can get the projects going. Obviously, during the pandemic right now, some of the R&D out in the world right now has slowed down a little bit on that, which is interesting, just in the animation side. People who started it about 2-3 years ago are already moving forward very quickly with Unreal and Unity. And then into VR and AR. So we're actually in talks right now to figure out how to, if you guys know anything about a program called Masterpiece Pro, which is it's a modeling software that actually you start to live model virtually. And so we're actually looking at how we can utilize this in our current workflow and add that on. It's not necessarily something that would replace anybody, but it would be an add-on to see if we can make that work. So that's something that we're talking about right now with an outside group.
Super cool.
I know we dabbled like a tiny bit in VR back on Beat Bugs, but it was in such a small way. And I think as sort of, I've seen some amazing stories told through VR. And one's not very well told through VR too. And so I think everyone's sort of watching as that progresses to see sort of where it's going to go next and figure out the right time to get on board.
Yeah.
And we're actually still working with the people on one of our current projects who are the leads on that VR project in the past.
No way. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool.
Oh, great questions.
I'm just going to see like if there's any, we're coming into that home stretch, the 650 plus time. If there's any, maybe 1 or 2 more questions, we can go there.
And again, reminder, please add us on LinkedIn and ask us anything after. If there's something you were kind of nervous to bring up for some reason now, just message us and we can either jump on a phone call or a Zoom call or message back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely add us onto LinkedIn for sure. Especially, on any of the group out there that's looking on the production side, I would definitely be loving to chat with you just a little bit more, just to give you a little bit more back, on what it is production does. I know some people don't really know what the ins and outs are and what the support of the production role is. And I'd love to give any of you, even those not interested in production, love to give any of you a little bit more information there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. This was wonderful. And we can't wait to see your demo reels or your portfolios or resumes, whatever you're going to put forward as you graduate. This was terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. No, this was great. Yeah, we'll
Thanks
stay in
again.
touch. We'll people will be adding you on LinkedIn. Look out for a whole wave of that, and then we'll connect with you on a few of the things. Like I'll send you details about the projects. Stay connected on our future showcase, and yeah,
Awesome.
we'll add
That'd
to
be
your
great.
group. You've
Thank
already
you,
got-
Dennis.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
And
much.
Tom, thank you
And
so
do you-
much. And thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Dude.
Dude, great seeing you. And actually, one thing I want to mention is that,
Yeah.
the internship term, or when they're looking for work, is going to be, well, either mid-August or September of this coming year. But definitely, I wouldn't mind being able to utilize you guys again, maybe for that term. The one thing I'd love to set up are even things like mock interviews for certain positions and things
Oh,
like
we'd
that. I
love to
know
do
that's a
that.
lot of work, but that would
Yeah.
be great. So
No
would we-
problem at all. We would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we can connect a little closer to the fall then, and do that. And when we reopen, we got to get you guys over for a tour of the CDM if you haven't been there.
Well,
And,
I haven't, and I'd love to see it. And I know that we've had different groups through the studio in the past, but anybody, I mean, if for some reason COVID stopped that from happening, then just hit us up after when things are better, and we'll get you in for a tour then.
That's great. And
Yeah.
please say hi to Jen too, and thank her again
Of
for
course,
from
yeah.
all of us. So,
This is such an awesome surprise. Yeah.
but thank you both for doing this tonight too.
No,
Thanks again, and thank you
Thanks for
everyone.
setting all this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, fellas.
All right, keep in touch, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Till next time.
Take it easy.